Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our third session of AECEA Connect. My name is Lisa Hodges, and I am a board member of AECEA, which is the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Alberta. And I wanted to thank you so much for joining us this evening. As you will see, my co-host is having a little bit of technical difficulties, but while we wait for her to get up the PowerPoint and to get back logged in, I'll just go ahead and get started here tonight, and then as soon as she hops on and we have the PowerPoint, then we can begin to run through that. Just a bit of housekeeping when we get started here. Just as a reminder, the session is being recorded, so people can watch it afterwards. If you do have something to say, there is a chat box that you can type it into. If you would like it to be read out, you can put please read, and then we can read out. If you have a question or a comment, if you would like it to be kept private, where only the organizers can see it, you can write private and then put what you ever want to share with us. When we do get to the sharing portion of the evening and you would like to chat with us, please do raise your hand, and then once Laura calls on you, you'll be able to unmute your mic. On your dashboard somewhere, there should be a little microphone. If you click to unmute it, then you will be able to talk. And perfect, I see we have our PowerPoint here. So just in this technology piece, we chatted a little bit about the session being recorded, the question box. If you would like to share, have your question read out, we can definitely do that for you. And then also unmuting your microphones on your end if you are able to, if you would like to speak and you are able to, and put your hand up. So I think that's everything, and yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Perfect. So our agenda for this evening, we're going to take a look at some of the work that AECEA has been doing. We're going to chat a little bit about the reopening of Alberta, that the announcement came last week here, and then we're going to be able to share our stories and what we're feeling and some of the things that we're dealing with. So once again, we'll just run through the purpose of these AECEA Connect meetings is that we want to hear from early childhood educators in the field. This is a very unprecedented time that we're in, and we feel like we're stronger together. AECEA is the megaphone for your voice, and these sessions have really given us such a wonderful platform to be able to hear from educators that are in the field and to gather the stories together, because there is a lot of power in story. We want to create a forum and the information is shareable, and where we can take that from and learn from everybody. And we want to ensure that ECEs know that AECEA is their voice. How it'll work, this is a safe space, so respectful feedback, prioritize the connections. Again, unfortunately, we don't have all the answers, and especially with the newness of the announcement, we won't be able to provide any insight tonight, but we just want to hear from you and what your feelings are. Once again, please feel free to use the question box and to share what's happening, or when the time comes, raise your hand. We would love to hear from you in person. So AECEA update. Last time we were on here, we spoke about AECEA was doing some case studies, and tonight I would like to share with you a little bit of what came out of those case studies, or at least the questions that it brought up. So first of all, AECEA's stance is that we're adamant that the health and safety of Alberta's children, families, and early childhood educators are at the forefront of any decision making related to childcare, and that further investments are made to ensure high quality provisions of childcare are done throughout the province. So with these case studies, we did look at, AECEA did look at a couple of centres, and some of the questions that had come up, and especially with the reopening, I think this is such a timely discussion that we're having tonight, is the opening of the childcare centres in the best interest of our children, families, and educators? Why are we reopening? and what is the difference between childcare centers and preschool programs. We found out this morning that wouldn't be opening. We also realized from these case studies, we've discovered that there's, and we also know there's a lot of expectations on ECEs and the directors. So how are our ECEs, what are we doing to prepare them to support these families and children? That goes beyond just the, the health and safety pieces. Our jobs are very busy as it is, and adding everything on top, what are we going to do to make sure that we are supporting our educators? Some families have also, recognizing that some families have experienced trauma or poverty from the situation, and what sorts of supports will we be able to have for these families moving forward. And also, when we do open, who's going to get the first pick of the spaces? So how are people going to, if centers do choose to reopen and we are operating at a lower capacity, educators are wondering who's going to get priority of the families to come back. And also, how are the staff members going to be prioritized? So which staff are going to be called back? Were some other questions and concerns that this case study brought up. As always, we do, the workforce, we want the workforce to come back very strong. Some educators were worried about the health and the safety of being able to come back during this time. Some educators are finding that they're making more money on the curb than what they would be making if they come back to work. So yeah, some really interesting topics that these case studies brought up. As well, some of the educators had questions surrounding reduced numbers of children in the program and how are they able to serve the public. So there's going to be reduced revenues. What's the viability of the program? How might ratio changes work?
Lisa, maybe let's turn your webcam off because people are struggling to hear you. So let's maybe just do voice for now and see if that helps.
All right. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Internet must be busy tonight for everybody. Yeah, so and then also what health and safety protocols are going to be once we reopen, increased duties, the PPEs, and what roles are AHS going to play in it. So those are some of the questions that got brought about through these case studies, and I'm sure that we look forward to tonight to hearing what some of your questions will be as we move into this potential reopening phase. All right, we see the next slide. So this was a quote that we found, I found on Facebook the other day, and it says, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So that was just something that I have been reflecting on these past couple of days of what do we want the sector to look like when we go back to, and yeah, what do we feel needs to change. I think we can move on to the next slide, Laura. So we are all in the same boat. We're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. So as we move into this next phase of reopening and we listen to everybody's different, questions, concerns, excitement, I think it's important for us to realize and recognize that there's going to be a wide range of emotions that are coming from people, and it's okay. So some people may be very excited about going back, and that's okay. Some people may be very nervous to go back, and that's okay too. Some people may be scared or sad to go back. Some people may be worried about what's going to happen to their own children and their position, and all of these feelings are okay. And I think that the purpose of tonight is to just be able to have a space for everyone to share your concerns, your excitements, your feelings about the news reopening. And I think when we get a good picture of how everyone's feeling, it'll help us see all the different sides of the story, and also what makes us strong as a profession is hearing everybody's different angles. So once again, just a reminder that we are recording the session. Before we go into sharing tonight, we just wanted to have a quick survey regarding these AECEA Connect sessions. So would you like AECEA to host AECEA Connect sessions designed specifically for different sectors of the field, day homes, out of school care, childcare, preschool, and we can do a quick poll right now and see what you think. So we'll just take a couple minutes here to give everybody a chance to answer the quick poll question that's on your screen at the moment.
For those just asking how to answer, if you're on a computer, it should be showing up in your screen there. Either it's a yes, no poll. Fortunately, I can't troubleshoot midway through like this, but thank you for putting your input into the question boxes there, and we'll make sure they're included when we track everything, because my poll is saying that 81% of the attendees have answered, so it looks like the vast majority have been able to get their poll submitted. Give it another 30 seconds or so.
Awesome. And while we're doing this poll, I see that Leah, my co-host for this evening, has been able to get back on. So as soon as she has her mic, then hopefully she'll be able to hop on with us as well.
Okay. Leah will just have to figure out her mic, but I will close the poll. The vast majority were able to get those in, like I said, through the poll itself, but thank you to those who wrote in their answers there. Like I said, we'll make sure to have those included when we evaluate this.
Awesome. And I think what we'll do is we'll just hop back, Laura, to that slide about, I think 2 slides previous. And we'll open it up now for any sharing. If anybody would like to share stories or how they're feeling with the reopening announcement, excitement, concerns they might have, we'll take this time to hear from some of our participants. And then just once again, a reminder, if you would like to chat with us, please raise your hand. Laura will call on you, and then you might need to unmute your mic before you speak. Another reminder that this session is being recorded. And if you don't have a mic capabilities, feel free to type it in the chat and we'll be able to read out your comment.
Hey, Leah.
I'm here.
Welcome back, Leah.
Finally. Painful computer process.
So Charlotte Fisher, I see that your hand is up, but it says that you are not connected to a mic, so I can't unmute you here. So I just ask, if you do have a question, please put it in the question box or connect yourself to a microphone and I can read it out. Let's go. Jody Van Thun, sorry if I mispronounced that. You have been unmuted if you have a question or a comment. Melanie Nichols says that your hair is cute, Leah.
Thanks, Melanie.
Jody, did you have a question or a comment to make? You may just need to unmute yourself if you do. No. All right, I will move on. And again, if you do not have a question, I just ask that you lower your hand. So you do that just by clicking on where you clicked it to raise your hand in the first place. Lisa Beckix, you've been unmuted if you have a comment or question to make. Oh. Hey, Lisa, I just asked that you lower your hand then just by clicking that same button. Perfect. Ruhi Sharma, you've been unmuted if you have a question. It does show me that you are muted. So if you do want to speak, then you'll need to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. So I have a question. Like I heard the news, like the daycare is going to be reopened, right? So I would just like to wonder, like how we could maintain like the social distancing with the young age. Like you have to sometimes feed them, pick them up. Like how it's gonna work? Like it's kind of like a scare me out.
That's a very good question. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I was just gonna say, I think you're in the same spot as what a lot of people are right now. And personally, I can't imagine trying to tell my nephews to social distance from each other. Based on what was said in the town hall and everything, that further information will be coming over the next week for daycares with those guidances in them, hopefully. If they aren't in there, be sure that AC and ALC will be pushing for those answers, because without being able to open safely, then I shouldn't open at all at this point. So we'll look over the next week and see what information the Ministry of Children's Services is able to give us as far as that. But at this time, I don't think we have an answer to give you.
I know there's someone in the questions though who did say that they are running a center that's open right now. So I don't know if someone who's running a center that's open wants to speak to how it's working, how they're managing that, what kinds of things they're looking at. Not to say that that's going to absolutely be the way that things go, but it might be nice to hear how that's happening for some people and what some of the successes have been.
Yes,
I don't know if there's someone who wants to to share
Carolyn.
about that.
Carolyn Yake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will unmute you, Carolyn. So you are unmuted, Carolyn Yaki. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Go ahead and speak.
It's okay. Hi, it's Carolyn. Can you hear me?
You can.
Great. It's Carolyn Yake. Rhymes with cake.
I like
to thank my husband for that one. So our center has been open since March 30th for essential workers. We're over in the Edmonton area in the Park Allen neighborhood, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from the U of A. And we got a bunch of guidelines from health and licensing before we reopened, and then we kind of just adapted it to our center. So first of all, the main floor of our center is an open concept. There's 3 classrooms, but they're divided by shelves and cubbies. They considered that one room. So we were only allowed 10 people total in that, on that main floor space. That includes staff and children. Then we have 2 rooms upstairs. One is a preschool, like daycare preschool classroom, and then one is the out of school care. So we were not allowed to open the out of school care. So we were only allowed to use 1 classroom upstairs. And again, we're only allowed up to 10 people in that room. So basically also with staffing, it was tricky because they don't want staff moving from room to room, like to cover breaks. So our plan was if we were full, we were going to have 8 children in each room and 2 staff in each room. 1 to do, work with the children, clean and ratio, and then 1 to do a lot of cleaning. But then we didn't see very high numbers. So we only really operated so far for April. We only had an average of 5 kids a day out of 16 that we were allowed total in the center. So we only had 2 staff and 5 kids for all of April. So it was really easy to maintain cleaning and ratios and things like that. The children do not social distance. You can't, there's no way to, and you can't social distance from them. The staff, they social distance as much as possible. I mean, our space isn't huge as it is. So it was just a lot of cleaning. We have a little like vestibule when you come in the door. So there's like a little like a doorway and then like glass. So no one, like once you come in the main door on the main floor, then you don't, like there's a little vestibule that's closed off before you come through another door into the center. So parents are not allowed to drop off in the center, and they drop off in the front door. The staff screen them, they take their temperature, they make sure they're okay, and then they do the same thing at pickup. So no parents were ever in the center. And then of course the staff that's cleaning and sanitizing is cleaning in all the high touch surfaces after the parents leave. We have found obviously it worked really well for us, and obviously it was low numbers, so it could work well. We already in May now have 9 children, and we've opened up our second room, and we've brought back 2 more staff. So we'll see how that goes. But basically to answer the overall question is there is no social distancing overall in daycare. You can't do it, right? It's not a lot different than like some of the essential services in the hospitals and stuff. We are not required to wear any masks or gloves and stuff, but we have them on hand, and it's, staff preference. I think wearing masks could like confuse the children and maybe even scare them. So I don't know. We haven't really tried it out. And it's hard to say because for us, it worked because we had low numbers. Now we're having higher numbers, so we kind of have to see what happens. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of us do, just hearing how that's working. And I think, looking at what could be higher numbers and, short timelines in terms of getting ready to go, and I certainly appreciate hearing
a lot
that.
of feedback from our parents. Like there's quite a few that want to come back because even if they're working from home, because it's hard with their children, but there are some that are hesitant as well. Overall, our response has been pretty good for June, they're talking about. And then also, I forgot what I was going to say on the other thing. I forgot what I was going to say, but I think it's just, what I was going to say is that restriction is you couldn't have more than 30 people total in the building. So that's where each classroom was only allowed like 8 to 10, including staff. And so, for example, if you have a center that's not open concept, and let's say you're licensed for 60 children, you know, and you have, I don't know, let's say 8 staff, you're not going to be able to operate at full capacity. And so, more than likely anyway. And so the government did offer us, instead of like subsidies and things, they like the wage top up for our staff was in place, but they offered us what is called vacant space money. So they paid us for daycare, they paid us $41 a day for every vacant space that we couldn't fill. Like we only did our first claim, obviously right now for April, and it was an average of, because we were only allowed 16 spaces total based on our building. So we claimed 13 spaces for April that were empty, and they're going to pay us for those at a $41 a day rate. So I'm hoping that if we're all supposed to open at reduced capacities, that they will extend that funding to you guys as well, because you need it, right? Otherwise you can't, like what else we couldn't operate if we just had to rely on, you know, 30 kids even, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely a question that AECE will be asking the ministry, and that we all can ask about what does that look like, because assuming we won't be able to open at full capacity, then how our program is going to be supported to continue.
Yeah, and then because I don't know if some of you are part of another association for private operators called AECEA. And what they do, like they have it's very similar to this, like they have a group and a board, volunteers, and then they kind of stand up for the private operators and talk to the ministers, and they sent us out a preliminary funding package. I don't know if you guys received it, and I can share it with you if you want, but I think they have some plans in place to give some funds to us. And I mean, I think you know, your families will get their subsidy, your staff will get their top up. But I think there's money in place to help us out with operating expenses like rent and utilities and things. Because they know we're going to be at a reduced capacity. And the minister has said many times that she was holding the budget for when we all have to reopen, because they're going to have to help you guys. Like there's just no question about it. You're going to have to pay rent, and you're going to have to pay utilities, and you're not going to be making a normal income. Like I just don't see how else they could do it.
Carolyn, this is Janet. I'm one of the background people here. I have a question that's come up, and I've heard different rumblings in regards to face masks. So somebody has mentioned in the chat box that the issue is not with them for social distancing, as they will be wearing a face mask, but the children won't be. But my understanding is staff are not permitted to wear a face mask. Can you clarify this for us?
So we were not told, it was like, it's not mandatory. We were not advised to even wear face masks. We weren't told about anything. We have extra bleaching and cleaning, and then extra, like lots of hand soap. We were allowed to use sanitizer, which normally they don't recommend because it's not as effective, but now, you know, we can, which is hard to come by. But we were not told that face masks for children or staff are mandatory. I don't believe, they never said anything specifically to the children wearing masks or not wearing masks, but I don't think, like just my personal opinion is, I don't think the children would even like want to, because they, you know, half the time they can't even keep their shoes on.
Right.
So
that it's a choking hazard for children and a suffocation hazard, and children shouldn't be wearing them, which I fully agree with. But then staff in some of the emergency centers were told that they were not permitted to wear masks because it changes the look of their face and it could be scary to the children. So staff were not allowed to be wearing masks in the center. So
we were never told yes or no. We were never even really talked to about personal protective equipment at all, other than gloves.
Right, and sanitizer, which is hard to come by.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for
just
that.
Washing your hands. Like we have a thing where we the children and the staff wash their hands every hour, obviously before and after meals, before and after, like outside, bathrooms, like a lot of hand washing. And we've had a lot of children too, some of the children getting really dry, cracked skin. And so lotion has to be put on. And yeah, like that part's a little bit tough. And then, you know, our staff are singing happy birthday twice every time they wash a child's hands, which, you know, gets on the nerves, but it is what it is. I think like overall, like we did okay. And I do stress that that was because we had quite low numbers. So I'm curious to see what it's going to look like operating at a higher capacity. But that's all I can speak to is about what we went through in April.
I have one more question for you, Carolyn. Does the $41 that you're getting from the government cover your cost per space?
Well, actually, technically, no. It's a reduced cost for us because, like, for us and our fees, we're charging our normal fees to the families that are enrolled with us. But our fees are actually lower than what the government, or sorry, our fees are higher, especially on the daily rate, than the government was paying us. We did get our rent deferred for April. So we didn't pay any rent in April. And then because we're not doing food, which I assume they're also not going to allow again, parents have to bring, like we didn't have a lot of operating expenses for April. I mean, granted, we didn't have a lot of kids, so we didn't need a lot of staff, but we didn't have a lot of operating expenses. But technically what I mean is that the $41 a day is lower than our daily rate.
Right. Okay. Thank you for answering that.
No problem.
Feel like we should just keep you on here. Everybody has a ton of questions for you, Carolyn. Sure. I don't think we really had a chance to have somebody from an emergency center on here. So
last time we didn't have anyone.
If you're okay to continue asking questions or answering questions, then I've got a few I can read out. Otherwise, I can move on.
No, I love to.
We should just have you join as a facilitator for the next session.
Sure.
Question and answer with Carolyn. So I have one here where it says, are you operating under your normal hours for your daycare?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah. Sorry, I had a lot of questions come in and some of them are talking. Just general comments. I have a couple of people just asking if you can share that information that you guys got at AECEA about as far as a financial package or finances made available. We've been told that they have been holding the funds to use for as centers reopen, but we at AC we haven't received anything as of yet as far as how that is supposed to be laid out or set up. That's sure. Great to hear though.
Do you want me to share it now, or do you want me to email the news release draft document?
If you can email it to me and then I can send it out to all the participants, if that works. Okay. Just to the AC email, so it's just info@aecea.ca, and that'll come straight to me. So I have one where it's saying, it sounds like you guys didn't have a lot of kids in the center, but someone was asking how people move from the main room to go upstairs if only 10 people are allowed in the room at one time. So I think that's just switching out educators maybe, or if you're shifting kids between areas.
So that's one of the things is we're not allowed to do, is we're not allowed to have staff or children move from room to room. So for example, like for April, we only had one room open on the main floor, so it wasn't an issue. But already since Monday, which was yesterday, sorry, I lose track of time. since yesterday we have more kids and we opened a second room. So we're lucky enough that we have 2 entrances. So to get to our upstairs, there's a separate door, right? So no one has to come in the main floor and then walk through it to go upstairs. So we're lucky that way. And then as far as moving from room to room, what they said was, like, if we have 2 rooms open and let's say the upstairs room only has 1 staff and 8 kids, because that's the ratio. Because what we can do too, instead of having 2 staff in each room, because that's not always cost effective under these lower capacities, that what we could do is have our ratio, like have our rooms open with our ratios. So 1 staff and their children, whether it's 6 or 8, and then have 1 staff who's floating around cleaning. So that's where we kind of got feedback from licensing where we said, well, that's what we're going to do. And she's like, well, technically you're not allowed to have, you know, people going from room to room. So what they wanted us to do was have 2 staff in every room, 1 to clean, 1 to ratio or help each other out, and to cover breaks, because they didn't want a staff from another room having to go to a second room to cover the breaks, because then you're, you know, bringing things from room to room. So again, I can't really speak to how that's working yet, because we just opened our second room. I believe, and I apologize because I don't actually work in the center. My director runs it with my staff. But what she's doing now is she called back 2 staff. So she has 2 staff in our toddler room downstairs, and then the 1 staff upstairs with the preschool. And I do believe she does have that 1 staff going upstairs to cover breaks. I think it's just sanitizing, washing your hands, sanitizing. I mean, just what you always do in a daycare, except amplified, really.
That's
That
awesome.
part's a little tricky for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your input on this. This is great, Carolyn. I do have to move on here just so that I can make sure that everybody gets a chance, or as many as possible get a chance before we need to close down for the night. But yeah, thank you so much. If you can send me that document, then I can make sure it goes out to the attendees here once the meeting is over.
Yeah, I sent it as we were speaking.
Perfect. Awesome. So well, thank you so much, Carolyn.
Awesome. No problem. Anytime.
Okay. So, sorry, I have a chat here just saying from Vera Omimia. Can you put your hand up if you would like to speak? Because I've got 160 people in here, so I can't find your name in the list offhand. But for the time being, please put your hand up there and I will get back to you. We'll move on to somebody right now. Malika Halder, you've been unmuted if you have a question or a comment to make. Nope. Okay. Letitia Gould, you've been unmuted if you have a question or a comment to make.
Hey, I was just going to kind of reiterate some of what Carolyn was saying. So our center opened up 2 weeks ago for essential service providers. And I would say the same thing, like there was a lot of nerves going into it. We were quite scared about reopening. But once we met with our health inspector and really went through with her what all the regulations were, it eased everybody's minds quite a bit, because you really are amplifying, like the cleaning and the policies and everything get quite strict. And then I had called around to some other centers to see what types of things they were doing. And that was also really helpful, just seeing what ideas they had for trying to keep kids social distanced. And so we got a lot of good ideas from that for things like Cleaning wise, we have a bin that we keep in the room. So as the kids are done with playing with toys, we put it in the dirty bin so that it gets washed while they're napped. And then the girls have a bin of clean toys so that they have toys that they can constantly be bringing out as the toys are getting used. And that's been really helpful. And then somebody had suggested that for the older ages, they set up cots for the kids and they used the cots as the kids' home base. And so they had the cots all kind of spread out throughout the room. So the kids had their private space that they can go to play and to store their toys and do stuff like that. So we've been doing that as well, and that's worked really good. We also did things like so that kids still have access to art supplies, because the health inspector said that's a high touch area where germs can be spread. We made art bins for each kid. So each kid has their own little bin of art supplies so that they can just go grab their own art bin. And she did say it was okay if we did the same thing with like clay and Play-Doh and stuff like that. So they each have their own little sensory bin too at different times. So stuff like that's been really helpful, just reaching out to other people who are open and seeing what they're doing to be creative and to try to maintain the social distancing and keep things as clean as they can. And I would say too, it was a really slow start for us as well. We are quite busy now, so we're opening our third room and we'll be full at 24 kids by mid-May. Right now we have about 16 that are coming. So our 2 rooms that are open are full right now. And one thing we did that I didn't hear Carolyn mention, but we did away with separating our kids by age. And so we're actually doing mixed age groups all throughout. And the reason we decided to do that was so that we could keep family groups together, because we figured that would lower the risk of spread. So we keep siblings in the same room, and we're trying to space it out so that there is like younger kids together and older kids. And it's been working a lot better than everybody expected. Everyone was kind of worried about planning for mixed age groups, but it's actually been really neat to see how the kids interact when you have a 19-month-old and a 6-year-old in the room, how the dynamics change. So that's actually been really cool to be able to see for us. What else? I was going to say, we made like a COVID practice guide, and so we'd be willing to share that too if anybody was interested in kind of the research we did on health and safety policies and stuff like that.
Thanks, Letitia. That's some great information, and we would really appreciate it if you would just email the guide to Laura. That's amazing. Thank you. And hi, by the way.
Hi.
I think we have a couple other people with hands up, I think, Laura.
We do. Hey, Chantel, do you solve? Sorry, if I pronounced it wrong, you've been unmuted. If you have a question or comment.
Yes, hi. I had a question about daycares that are located in schools. Have you heard anything regarding what is planned for those centers?
Not as of yet, I don't believe. I think that's expected to come out in the next week along with the other supplementary information. So we'll wait to see that, but officially I have not heard of anything.
Okay. So none of those centers have opened that are located in schools. Okay.
As far as we know, they haven't, no.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I do have a question here from Dina Atoni Batista Tessa. Sorry, I am awful at pronouncing names here. If I butcher it, I do apologize. So the question is, I would like some understanding around why preschool is not included in the reopening. What did AC do to advocate this, and why or what makes us different? The parents are asking this. They have contacted us and are wondering how summer camp is opening for their other children, but not preschool. So that point is kind of a multi-pronged question, I think. As far as why preschool is not included in the reopening, we don't know yet. Minimal information has been shared. So as far as that goes, we aren't sure. Preschool, every step of the way, has been included in everything that we're advocating for. So that's a big piece. We look at system-wide. We aren't looking at just specific daycare, out of school care, or family day home. It's early learning and childcare as a whole. As far as in regards to summer camp is opening, that one is not clear because I believe summer camps are included in stage 2, which does not have even a set date for, or it's a theory stage at this point because we need to get past stage 1 to begin with. And the May 14th date, according to all the releases and everything from the government, even that date is not a set in stone one yet. It's based on multiple different factors. And thank you, Tristan. I did just see in here that you said summer camps are stage 1. For that one, I am surprised. I missed that in there. Do any of my other admins have anything to state or answer in regards to this?
No, I think you covered it. I mean, unfortunately, we don't know anything more than what's been put out to everybody. So we're trying to navigate this and put these questions back to government and the ministry on everyone's behalf to make sure that all the voices are heard and all aspects of the sector are represented. So that's what we're working on.
Yeah. And just to kind of reiterate what Lisa opened with, I know it's really frustrating when we do not have all the answers. In a situation like this, though, as we've seen in media that's come out or all of these releases, things are changing minute to minute, hour to hour. So we may not have all of the answers to your questions. We are taking them, we're evaluating them, we are putting them forward as we can to the minister and to other bodies if we can as well. There's a lot of pieces where if it's specific to your situation, we may not ever be able to talk on it. You may need to direct questions towards sort of different bodies than us. If it's regarding labor or EI and stuff, we can talk in broad terms about those, but we are not the experts in those areas. So just bear with us. We can only work with the information that we have, but your questions are great and they are giving us something to move forward on and how we can direct our advocacy as well on what the field is really needing. But yes, so keep putting your questions in there. There's quite a few in there, so if we don't get to them, don't panic or anything. We have seen them. And we will review them and answer the ones that we can answer via email. I think we've got just under 10 minutes here, so I am going to move on to some of these hands up people. Krista Carter, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
Hi, thanks, Laura. Yes, I do actually. It's a two-part question, and it's for the ladies of the centers that have reopened for the essential workers. My question is about the children in your care. So were they children that were existing to your program prior to the COVID situation, or were they new children that were taken in? So you had to build brand new relationships. And then part two of that question then is, I'm curious what your thoughts are, if there's been any planning. What happens to those children? Where do they go once you start reopening up to capacity and your regular families are coming back?
Thanks,
Does
Krista.
that make sense?
Yeah, so Carolyn answered in the text box here. She said they were new to us. It was like starting all over, which I'm sure would be very stressful to children in these situations. And they're in the process of asking them if they will stay at the or at that center.
Okay. And so if you were full beforehand, I'm interested to know what the decision criteria would be of, how do you turn your existing families away But then, yeah, anyhow, that's to be seen. So I'm just curious from those who are in the situation, how they're thinking that's going to be handled. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question there. That's great. And I am seeing other responses where they're saying it's been a mixture, and that they're prioritizing the families coming back that are full-time or were full-time ahead of this. And I think from there, then organizations are kind of choosing which direction they want to go based
Okay.
on these responses in here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question, Krista.
Thanks, Laura.
Laura, do we want to do one more hand and then we can do our little Wordle to close off?
Sure.
Does that, or do we have a lot? Do we need to kind of keep going with people? I am up for whatever.
So we're a bit late starting.
Okay.
Let me
That was
get
probably my
through.
fault.
I've got 5 people with their hands up, or 6 people. So let's get through these and then we'll
Okay.
shift. Catherine Brown, if you have a question or comment to make, you have been unmuted.
Thank you. I have a question for the centers that have reopened. As we know, a lot of the community parks have been closed, and I'm wondering if you're allowed to use your own playgrounds at the center.
Yeah, good question.
Mm-hmm.
Considering that playgrounds are closed across, I see a not yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not yet.
Oh, I've got a yes. I think it's 50-50.
Yeah.
The playgrounds in their, like on their sites in their backyards, I'm seeing some people are saying yes, and then there's others who are saying no. So again, I think that one is center to center, likely based on how their playground is set up. If they're specific to the organization or if it's joint with, say, if it was a school property or something, I think that would be a deciding factor between them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Okay, Cindy Single, you are unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
No, I don't, thanks.
Okay. Roxanne Langevin, you've been unmuted if you have a question or a comment to make. You'll just need to unmute yourself if you do.
Okay. Yes, most of my questions has been answered, but I'm wondering, and it doesn't seem like with reopening, all of the staff will be coming back in the interim, but what about staff that has pre-existing conditions? How would that work? If they want to stay off for a while, or are they required to return?
That's probably a question that's best kind of directed towards that more labor kind of piece, because we don't really know all the ins and outs of how EI is working and how the emergency benefit is working. So that's one that would probably have to go to the labor office to find out exactly what the protocols are for being called back to work and coming back to work. So
yeah. And would it help if we do a Zoom meeting?
Unfortunately, Zoom is quite expensive to use. So at this time, we are going to stick with the GoToMeeting platform, because the Canadian Child Care Federation is nice enough to let us use theirs. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. And I've got one more hand that I'll try again. Malika Halder, you have your hand up still. If you have a question or comment to make, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry, it's by my mistake.
Okay. Okay. What time are we at? Okay. We'll take one more and then we will move on to the Wordle. Bernice Taylor, you've been unmuted. you have a question or comment to make?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we were in a Central Regional Learning gathering meeting this afternoon, and it was mentioned that the government gave $500 to centers per cleaning. I think that as the AEC...
Are we doing mic or are we using Discord?
Just give me a second here, Bernice, and I'll try to find who
Arman.
has audio that's talking.
Wait, I'm just loading in real quick.
Whoever is on a phone
Not loading,
call.
I just turned on my TV.
Okay, I think we're good, Bernice.
Yeah, anyways, they said that they were given $500 for cleaning, and I think it's easy to hear $500 and say, oh, that's great, but a $500 one-time payment to centers is not going to be enough to cover, and the words they used was for cleaning. So when we look at the model, like when we're starting to take a look at this model, you almost need designated people for cleaning, and I really think the province needs to put some money towards wages for that. And so we would really love if AC, I know in a previous call earlier this morning when we had a bunch of directors together, one request went forward asking if AC would push the government and say, can we push this date back to June 15th instead of May 15th and let us get our ducks in a row and get the guidelines out and get policies formed and have our staff. I think confidence with parents even would be there because, you know, we sent a letter out and I didn't hear back from any parents currently even wanting to come back because they're afraid. And then we need to really push them on the money because I think a May 14th turnaround is an easy way to say, oh, here's your money, here's what we're going to do, let's get going. And everybody rushes into it when it's okay for centers to say, nope, that's not enough. That's not enough money. You need to come back with a better deal. That's just my take.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. And I am seeing just in the text box here, some people are saying like the May 14th date is just when centers are eligible to be able to open. I know of some centers that have pushed that date back to either the end of May or into the first week of June. So I think that we will definitely push for further supports and everything like that, and we'll bring this forward. But know that it's not a mandatory you have to open on the 14th, because even as of right now, that May 14th date is not firm in government's eyes until we can get our other ducks in a row as far as testing. I think. Do my admins have, or other admins have anything else to add?
You're doing great, Laura.
I'm just going. I don't drink coffee anymore, and I had coffee about half an hour ago, so I can keep going all night.
I would just like to say from the region of town, which is Northeast Alberta, many of the center directors up in this area are not comfortable with opening on May 14th. Everybody is waiting until they can have more clarification from the government and from the Minister of Health, or not Minister of Health, but the Chief Health Officer, on how to do this safe, because children are our main priority. And while we want to open up, we want to be safe for children, we want to be safe for families, we want to be safe for staff, but we also have to be a fiscally responsible business and be able to find the balance between being able to sustain not just the pandemic, but what happens afterwards. And yes, you know, there's lots of loans out there that you can take, but you still will likely have an increase in your parent fees. And how many of our parents are coming back? So it's this nasty circle that goes around and around and around. So anyway, from where I am, I won't rip your ear off. Many of the centers at this point in time are choosing not to reopen at this time.
Thanks, Janet.
Yeah. And just to clarify what I meant about ducks in a row regarding testing, when the government put out their reopening stages, they said it was based on a certain criteria that they needed, and one of them was increased testing and making sure they can capture more of those asymptomatic people to really control that community spread. I don't have that page in front of me right now, But what I can do is I can include that when I send out the other resources that people are sending to me today. I can include that in that email.
And Laura, that brings up a good point that I think, once again, just to remind everybody that the AECE website is got a lot of good COVID-related resources that Laura works very hard to keep updated for us. So it's also a great page to go to. And as we are finding out more, you know, many of the information that you've all gotten has been new to us as well. But as we find more and we take your questions and hopefully try and get some clarification and some answers, we will be posting it on the website as well.
Okay.
And it's really good to know the specific things that people are most concerned about so that we can really highlight those things. I mean, of course, we have a general picture of everyone's worried, but to really know, you know, here's the things we're worried about and what does this mean for masks and what does this mean for playgrounds and what does this mean for cleaning, then those are things that we can really highlight when we, you know, bring things forward to the ministry around, you know, really key answers are needed for these things before we can really think about what reopening means.
No, you're very right, Leanne. I think we started off with this, and as we move into the Wordle, I would just like to end with reiterating that AECEA is adamant that the health and the safety of Alberta's children, families, and early childhood educators are at the forefront of any decision making related to childcare, and that further investments are made to ensure high quality provisions of childcare in the province. So when we are opening, we're taking into consideration the best interests of children and families, and also making sure that quality piece is there. So thank you so much for everybody's questions tonight and sharing all your thoughts and concerns with us.
Yes. Thank you. Laura, do you want to, actually, I'm going to make me the presenter and I'll put up the Wordle thing if I can.
Sure. Or I'll make you the presenter, or you are the presenter.
All right. So we have a fun Wordle again, and we wanted to end on a positive note. So this doesn't directly connect with all the things we've been talking about, but I think all of us have learned and grown throughout this time and found new ways of connecting with one another. And last time we really talked about, you know, what are ways that people are connecting with families and, you know, how are we staying connected with children? So let's, you can go to menti.com and use the code, presumably it's sharing, yes it is, and put in what are some new ways of connecting that you've discovered and what are you excited to continue doing? So what are some of the positive changes that might have come out of this that you might be excited about? You know, once we get over this first set of hurdles, what kinds of things do you want to keep doing? So feel free to go to menti.com on webinars.
Excellent. At least we know we're headed in the right direction.
That's right. We're doing something right. Oh, drive-by visits. That's fun.
You know, I had my birthday yesterday and I was pretty sad I didn't get a drive-by. But when you're 25 years old, I don't think they care as much about your birthdays. Food.
Zoom and Facebook.
Yeah, I know we toyed with the idea of having this being streamed through Facebook Live as well. These are cool.
Yeah, I like food.
I do too. I fully support any food available. I'm always available to be a taste tester.
Story videos. That's like the reading the stories. I love that. Activity kits. So I think we've all, that's awesome that we've, you know, found ways, educator group chats, and what a lovely thing, because so many times you can feel, even though you're working maybe in a place with a lot of people, a little bit isolated because your time is spent in a room with the same people and children. Surprise drop-offs, lovely.
Freely go outside, that would be nice.
Private Facebook groups with families, those can be a really beneficial thing, absolutely. Instagram.
I guess maybe a good challenge for everybody is what you're typing in the chat box is how are you going to keep those connections that you've now discovered? How are you going to maintain them as we move forward?
Oh no, sorry, I did a thing.
These are great. You know, I think this is the only field that I know of, aside from maybe education, where a lot of you aren't being paid right now, and you guys are continuing to do this.
Yeah.
You are very right, Laura.
And it really speaks to the amazing people we have in this field that, you know, we can really make sure that's known in the community. Virtual wine parties, okay. How do I get invited to that?
Yeah.
I want that to continue.
Can we have our next AECEA Connect like that?
Yeah.
There's no cameras for most of the people. They can be doing whatever they want.
This is true.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll leave this up for a little bit. I know we've gone over time, so thank you for staying with us. And it's probably my fault that we went over time because I was having technical difficulties, so I appreciate people's patience. And thank you for joining us again. We will continue to have these, and they might, you know, change form or to, you know, focus on different things. But for now, I think we really just realize the value of connecting with one another and having this opportunity to share our experiences and our stories and to really come together and bring our voices together. So thank you again for joining us. We'll let you know when the next one will be happening. Yeah, and we will continue to work towards having this reopening happen safely and positively for everyone, and then keep moving forward in our field. So ways to stay connected would be the AECEA Facebook page or the AECEA website, which of course has all the really great resources on it. And do reach out to your, you know, people in government and the minister with things that you specifically want answers to, because when many voices are heard, they know that it's a big deal. So thank you for your time and good night from me anyway.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.